He said it casually, like he was assigning me a chore. You can take the guest room tonight. We usually reserve the upstairs for family. The clink of silverware stopped. Briefly, then everyone went back to eating like nothing had been said. My wife kept cutting her steak. Her sister smirked. Her mother didn't even look up. I swallowed hard and nodded once. No visible reaction. That was key. But I felt it. We were in their mountain home. Her family's summer estate. Big enough to have wings. I'd paid for the new roof last year. Repaired the plumbing. Covered a $10,000 property tax shortfall without ever being asked. I didn't tell anyone. Just did it. Because that's what not family does, right? The guest room wasn't a suggestion. It was a message. You're temporary. You're tolerated. You're replaceable. And I'd let them think that for far too long. I cleared my throat and poured another glass of wine, ignoring the insult. Not because it didn't matter, but because the timing wasn't right. Not yet. Let me rewind. 6 years married to Clara. 4 of those years playing the good son-in-law. They never liked me. I wasn't Ivy League. I wasn't old money. I was a startup kid who sold his first app in college and walked into their world with the kind of clean-shaven confidence they mistook for arrogance. They'd introduce me as Clara's husband, never by name. I kept smiling. I kept showing up. Every holiday, every gala, every boring fundraiser for some obscure family foundation. I cut checks. I posed for photos. I played my part. But 2 months ago, everything shifted. I found a folder. Her father's desk. Open. Careless. Inside, documents. Internal memos from a firm he managed. Financials that didn't add up. Funds being siphoned into shell accounts, some of which bore Clara's name as silent co-owner. Offshore. Hidden. Clara always told me she wasn't involved in the family business. Said she preferred not to get political. But there it was. Proof that not only was she involved, she was profiting. And I wasn't supposed to know. I took photos. Quietly. Sent them to a secure server I'd set up long ago for unrelated reasons. Then I started watching. Clara got jumpier. Passwords changed. Calls she took outside. She started asking if I was happy, if I still felt connected. It was fake concern. She wasn't checking in. She was checking for cracks. I gave her nothing. Just patience. Then, yesterday, I made a purchase. A controlling share in the auditing firm that her father's company had hired to do their internal books. I'd been buying their stock quietly for months through holding companies. It wasn't hard. The real power's never loud. It moves in silence. On paper, I was now the majority owner. As of 3:15 p.m. yesterday, I had access to every audit, every internal report, every irregularity buried over the past 3 fiscal years. But I hadn't told anyone. Not yet. Because I was waiting for tonight. This dinner. This moment. When he looked me in the eye and told me to sleep in the guest room. I smiled. So, funny story, I said, swirling my wine. Yesterday, I made a purchase. Bit of a splurge. Clara's father looked up. Oh, what was it? Control. I set my glass down. Of Hartley and Boone. Silence. He blinked. You bought a consulting firm? I leaned forward slightly. Auditing. The one that handles your quarterly compliance checks. Internal financial reviews. You know, the people who know exactly how many fingers are in the pie. Now the table froze. Her sister's fork hung midair. Her mother finally looked up. And here's the interesting part. I continued, tone flat. They found something. A discrepancy. Several, actually. Funds traced through Luxembourg, Cayman Islands, back to a trust in Clara's name. My wife inhaled sharply. You're bluffing, her father said, too quickly. I pulled a slim envelope from my jacket and slid it across the table. This is a copy of the preliminary report. The full one gets filed next week. Unless I ask them to hold it. Temporarily. Clara looked like she wanted to run. And why would you do that? Her father asked, voice lower now. Because I'm not just Clara's husband, I said, finally. I'm the guy who's been watching all of you. Quietly. Patiently. While you underestimated me. He didn't reply. I stood. Buttoned my jacket. I won't be taking the guest room tonight. I'll be leaving altogether. But before I go, you should know, the compliance officer I just hired used to work for the SEC, very thorough. Her mother's hand trembled slightly. I turned to Clara. You married me for the illusion of simplicity. But the thing about simple men, they're the ones you should never cross. Because we don't roar. We act. I walked out of that house without looking back. But the story wasn't over. Not even close. By the time I reached the bottom of the hill, My phone was vibrating nonstop. Clara, her sister, 2 missed calls from her father. I ignored them all. I checked the timestamp on the audit summary I'd given them. Watermarked. Non-editable. It had just enough detail to send a message, but not enough to trigger immediate panic. That would come later. At the hotel, I didn't sleep. I read every page of the full audit report. 68 pages of fraud, asset diversion, and falsified charitable deductions. All linked, directly or indirectly, to William Langford, Clara's father. My father-in-law. By noon, I had decisions to make. I called Caroline, my attorney. Old friend. Former federal prosecutor. You want to push this? She asked. Because if we leak this to the right regulatory bodies, he's not surviving it. I'm not looking for destruction, I told her. Not yet. Just leverage. She paused. Then send him the second envelope. By 1 p.m., William Langford received an express package at his office. A binder, neatly indexed, printouts of bank transfers, asset holdings, fake donor receipts, all labeled. I didn't call him. I let the weight of it do the talking. That evening, Clara showed up at my hotel. No warning, just a knock. She looked like she hadn't slept. Eyes raw, jaw tight. Not the woman I married. Not even close. Can we talk? I stepped aside. Let her in. She sat, back rigid, hands clasped. I didn't know, she said quietly. About most of it. I signed things. That's the point, I replied. You signed. Willingly. That offshore account in your name wasn't an accident. It was my father's idea. No. It was his protection. You were the fall guy if things went bad. And you didn't even see it. She flinched. You don't believe me? I sat across from her. Clara, I'm not interested in belief. I'm interested in truth. So here's some. I never cared about the money. Not at first. I married you because I believed you saw me. Not the bank account. Not the acquisition headlines. Me. She looked down. I was wrong, I said. But I'm not angry. I'm not even hurt anymore. I just want out. Quietly. Cleanly. And without you or your family trying to bury me for what I know. Her lip trembled. You want a divorce. I already filed. This morning. My lawyer will contact yours. She stood. What if I help you? What if I testify? My father. I shook my head. Your father's not the problem anymore. He's already made his move. She blinked. What? I handed her a second envelope. Inside, a signed non-disclosure agreement and a proposal. William's counter. He wanted silence. In exchange, full severance from the family trust and no legal action taken. He was offering me a buyout. Like I was an employee being let go. He thinks this is over, I said. He thinks money solves everything. Clara stared at the paper. What are you going to do? I stood and walked to the window. Below, cars passed like ants. Ordinary lives. Simple. Clean. I'm going to show him what real control looks like. She didn't speak after that. Just left. By morning, the buyout offer had doubled. I hadn't responded. Instead, I sent one final document, a single-page release form. If William Langford signed it, I would sell my information to a private firm. A competitor. One who had been circling his company for years. I got the call at 10:07 a.m. What do you want? William's voice was tight, brittle. Everything, I said. Not your money. Your silence. Your exit. You stepped down, publicly, in 30 days. Citing health, personal reasons, whatever fiction suits you. But you're done. And Clara's name is scrubbed from every ledger, every document. She walks away clean. Or the report goes public. A long pause. You'd ruin me. No. I'd reveal you. There's a difference. Click. 2 hours later, the press release hit the wire. Langford to retire citing health concerns. The board was surprised, but supportive. I wasn't surprised at all. Power isn't about shouting. It's about precision. By the end of the week, Clara signed the divorce agreement. No contest. No demands. Just a clean signature and a quiet exit. But I wasn't done. Because when men like William Langford fall, they don't fall alone. They bring everything down with them. And I was holding the match. William Langford resigned. That part was easy. What came next, that was planned. 2 days after the announcement, I leaked the internal audit. Not to the SEC, not to the press. That would have been noisy. Predictable. Instead, I sent it to 3 private equity firms. All competitors, all hungry, all ruthless. Within 48 hours, Langford Holdings stock took a hit. Minor at first. Then came the questions. Where's the CEO? What's this about audit irregularities? Why is the board silent? 3 weeks later, a takeover bid landed. Hostile, swift, and perfectly legal. I wasn't part of it directly, but I didn't need to be. The shell company I used to buy into Hartley and Boone, that same entity held voting shares in Langford Holdings, acquired slowly, quietly over a 2-year window while Clara's father treated me like a charity case. Enough to tip the balance when it mattered. The new board took shape fast. Cleaned house. Half the executives retired. William Langford's assets? Liquidated under the guise of restructuring. I watched from a distance. Clara moved to Chicago. Her new name on the lease, her new life just beginning. We didn't talk. I didn't hate her. I didn't love her either. That part of me died at the dinner table. The house we shared? Sold. Proceeds split. She didn't fight. I think, deep down, she knew what she'd gambled and lost. Her father called once. Blocked number. Left a voicemail. I underestimated you. You win. I hope it was worth it. I deleted it. Because this wasn't about winning. It wasn't even about revenge anymore. It was about correction. Balance. A quiet shift in power from those who take without consequence to those who endure in silence. Until the silence becomes strength. I didn't go back to tech. I didn't need to. I started a new firm. Financial recovery for whistleblowers and exploited partners. Discreet. Aggressive. We don't chase headlines. We chase control. 3 months after the Langford collapse, I sat at a different dinner table. Smaller. Cleaner. A client I'd helped was celebrating. Her ex-husband, a corporate parasite, had just declared bankruptcy. She handed me a glass. To quiet men with loud plans. I smiled and raised mine. No need for speeches. Just a nod. Some men play the long game. Fewer finish it. But the ones who do, you never see them coming.